about something very dear to the hearts of quite a number of us here. We've been talking about changing the world and giving back. And we know that PF and his team have been doing this, over the years. And today we are going to delve deep into that. We're going to ask him some questions to find out how it has been for him and the team, the past couple of years, so that we can glean, from PF and be able to even apply as much as possible for as many of us that have the heart, to missions, the heart to give back, the heart, and really all of us are expected to even give back. We are not supposed to just take in and take in and take in. So we're expected at some point to give back to our world. So PF, I have quite a number of questions for you today. And before I go into the questions, I would just like to ask, when was the first time it dawned on you that life is not just about oneself? It includes being able to support other people. Was there a particular time that you can remember that was more like, okay, it's not just about me, accruing things. I need to be able to give back to others?
I think for me, it's more or less has been my life, but I can remember when I was on campus, I noticed in my year one, this was 1995, that there were students who couldn't afford school fees. And there were some who, usually towards the exam period, people are naturally broke. So that's when on campus they will say, oh, you have reached grade level, I don't know, whatever they call it in various schools. They will say grade level, and then people will be going from room to room. People will hold spoon everywhere they went. And then, and so primarily, I began to think about my friends who couldn't afford food that period, because obviously they couldn't send stuff home. So I started thinking, okay, what can I do to stop that? And so I began to look for where I could get jobs on campus. So I found that they were building a new hostel. And so I will go there and I'll ask them, okay, how much is a day labor? So they'll tell me,
wow.
500 naira. And then so they will give me a task to paint the doors that they were just installing. So I will do from morning till evening on the days I'm free, so I will earn 500, and 500 was a lot in 1995,
Yeah.
and so that was how I started earning. And so I had extras. And so I didn't just ensure that there was abundance during the career level. I was music director, and I had someone that we worked together with, co-leaders of music department. This lady was very, very secretive. Apparently, she didn't pay her school fees. And so, and we had money, we're contributing in choir, and then she said, oh, we can't touch the money. And I said, okay. I said, we can borrow it, and then how long would it take you to pay back? She said, it would take her like a month to pay back when her parents sort out. So I said, okay, we are co-leaders. I'll talk to the leadership and then we'll give you a loan. So we gave her the loan, and then it was the money we're contributing, I think, for an album we wanted to wax. And then a week to the event, she told me, Praise, I'm not sure I can make it. In fact, she stopped talking to me. She was feeling guilty and blah, blah, blah. I was like, so what can I do? I went back to my job, did some days work, raised 3,000 naira then, and then helped her pay. Now, the love I exhibited was too much for her because she's never experienced love, that she totally stopped talking to me. In fact, I started asking, what did I do wrong? What did I, blah, blah, blah. I didn't know. I didn't know why she stopped talking to me as I then until my birthday this year. Because my best friend, in school was the one that now told me that the lady told her that she felt every time we needed to pay for food, that was the one bringing money or my friend, and that she felt there was nothing for her to contribute. So that was where it started off for me. And then I left school and I had to go for youth service. And when I got to my youth service, they posted me to some place where they rejected me. And then I could influence where I served because then CBN opened. So I had the option between changing it to CBN where I would make money or going to teach in a secondary school. So I thought about it and I felt, oh, secondary school, we always make money. Secondary school, I may not see these children again. So let me go. So I went there, I studied accounting and I wanted to teach accounting. And they said they don't offer accounting in that school. So I said, what subject do you have needs for? They said they don't have English an English teacher for SS1 and SS2. So I said, okay, I'll teach English. Right. And then I got to class day one, SS1 English, and nobody spoke English in the class.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
And so, okay, instinctively, I asked the students, can you recite English alphabet, at least A, B, C, D, A for apple? They couldn't. There were
Mm.
only about 3 or 4 students who could recite A, B, C to Z. So, I mean, how do you even start? Where do you start from? How did they get to SS1? From GSS1 to be promoted to SS1. So there were days in class I'll be asking, what would you like to be in the future? The prominent profession were custom officer, police. Yeah, those were the courses they would like to study in the university. I said, there's no course like that. So I had to use interpreter. I had to use pidgin. Then we started from A for apple, B for ball, C for dog, cat, like that, till an entire time, almost everyone in class started reading, at least,
Oh, wow.
right? And so once they could read, I now started, teaching them there's more to life. You can do a lot more. They can, and then by the second week, they sent 2 people to come and warn me that my job was to teach English and not to teach the young people something else outside of English. I did not
Wow.
know that in the North, there was a fatalistic approach to life that says that there is a category of people who were destined to be poor, some were destined to be
Hmm.
rich. The rich can never be poor, the poor can never be rich. I didn't know. So second time they had come to threaten me, that I mean, whatever my eyes saw, that if they had to kill me, they would. That wasn't my. Apparently, what I was doing was causing real crocus in some areas, and so we had to change the strategy, but I helped a lot of students that year. In fact, one of them called me, I think about 5 years ago, to say that he had just finished his master's and then he had been hired by
Mm.
Hapti American University as a lecturer or something like that. And I mean that was the boy who couldn't read and write. So by the time I left youth service, I'd read some books, The Path of Least Resistance, The Path by Noble Jones, and I saw that there was more to life than accumulation of money. Now, I took that to
Mm.
an extreme, which is not good, right? Because I took it to an extreme where I put others first outside of myself. I mean, as long as I could eat, as long as I could, I never bothered about properties or whatever my friends were doing, right? And so that was where it started from. And then I came back from youth service and I was taking a walk. Then they had transferred my dad to Ajegunle as the priest in charge of the Anglican archdeaconry there. And then I was taking a walk one evening and I saw young girls prostituting. And these girls
Mm.
were in their teenage years. And I was like, I got back home, was very upset. God, what is the meaning of this? Government is useless. And the Holy Spirit said to me, you can do something. I said, no, I can't
Mm.
do anything. Where will I get money to rehabilitate? I said, you don't need money to rehabilitate prostitutes. I said, so what do I need? Then the Holy Spirit said to me, remember how you were once upon a time a bad boy and how
Mm.
you could boast that you could toast any girl, any day and do whatever you want, and so he said you have the power to convince. You can use the same
Mm.
skills to toast them out of prostitution. So the following day, I disguised that I was a customer, went there actually, and then started asking, oh, I'm new in town, I'm looking for friends. And some of them will shout at me, okay, if you know do, don't disturb our business and blah, 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 blah. I say, oh, but tell me your name. So my name is Glory. I say, your name is Glory? Glory? You know the meaning of glory? What is glory doing in a place like this and blah, blah, blah. I say, okay, we don't have time for talk. If you want to talk, come in the morning. So I will go in the morning, take my breakfast there, and then we'll sit down, they will eat, and then we'll talk. And so that was how I became their friend, and I started talking them out of prostitution, started taking them back to their families. And I remember the next word that will happen was the owners of the hotel. Apparently, they had discovered how I emptied that initial hotel, and then I didn't know that the bed space for prostitution was 900 naira in as a den, right? And so I, you know, so I was spoiling business for them. So they want every hotelier that nobody must allow me enter any hotel in Ajegunle. So as they chased me out of that place, I found another place, which is the capital of prostitution. It's called Good Evening Street. Good Evening Street is an entire close that prostitution is the only thing that happens there 24 hours. And so they have segments. If you wanted to sleep with an Igbo girl, there's a place you go. If you want to sleep with a Benue girl, there's the place you go. If you wanted an Hausa girl, Yoruba girl, and they never mixed. So I went into that place and I put my tabernacle there. And that was how I started taking these girls back home. But I noticed that the more I took them back home, the more others went to replace them. And so by then there were pressures, get a job. My father got me a bank job. I didn't resume. In fact, my uncle still pokes fun at me that you're our staff and you never resume. So I didn't resume, because my two siblings had done banking and I didn't like what their lives was like, So I said no, I wasn't going to do banking. Then my father's friend came and said, "Oh, MTN just came to Nigeria. Would you like to work with it?" I said no. So I ran away from home, literally.
Wow.
We need to change life. I mean, I almost felt like, the burden I carried was a burden to say we have to change this country. We have to change this country. Nigeria cannot continue. I mean, how can young people be, but the more I took them out, the more others went to replace them. And so I changed the strategy. Say, okay, while we're taking these ones out, we will prevent others from going. That was how we started a meeting that will prevent people from going to prostitution in Ajegunle. I'll tell you more about that story later, but in a nutshell, that was how my life started because I saw that even though I was poor, I saw people who would kill themselves to be at my level, and I felt, what is life if there is no impact? What is life if we can't transform humanity? And, that was how this whole thing started.
Wow, thank you so much, PF. And while you were speaking, it just reminded me of an experience that I had also at some point in my life. There was a time I was running a ministry, and we had so much to do at that time. We had a lot of people to support, and I could remember I spent all my savings. I liquidated all my investments. And when I finished that, I pounced on the children's investment and liquidated everything. But thank God I had a very fantastic governing body. They were very upset with me. And they said, "You know what, Ayo, we are going to refund the children the money you liquidated. But for you, the one you spent, that one has gone. What's the law?" So when you said that sometimes we don't apply wisdom, to these things, I really, really resonate with you. We need to be able to apply wisdom even as we are supporting other people so that at the end of the day, we don't get our fingers burnt. I know that you've done a lot of things, you know, when you were with the people in Nigeria, what structure in place, we've been able to experience working with people in a more structured environment. So how has it been, and how have the structures you have been able to put in place been able to change lives much more than even when there was no structure, when you just started, one-on-one, and let's just get these things done? How has it been?
Okay, very tough, I must say. I had no prior experience. I mean, going to rehabilitate prostitutes was not something that was common in Nigeria. It was, people were doing it, but they were doing it the other way. What they were doing was to take the prostitutes out of prostitution and then keep them away from the people, and then they will teach them new things, teach them how to bake something, bake cake, and then they will not teach them marketing skill. Then they will now bring them back to the community and say, we have rehabilitated 100 people. But they never tell you what happened to those 100 people a year after or 2 years after. Now, I learned something while reading the Bible. David was running away from Saul, and then he got to the priest. I think Elimelech or something like that. And the priest said, "Oh," David said, "I'm hungry." And they said, "We don't have anything here except the shewbread, which is the holy bread. Normal people should not take the shewbread." And the priest said, "Your people can only take this except they've kept themselves clean from women." David's response was not that they've kept themselves from women. David's response was, women have been kept away from them. Now, keeping yourself away from sex and sex being kept away from you are two different things. It means they've not had opportunity since we've been running away. If they had opportunity, maybe they will knock, right? And so I realized that rehabilitating them away from the temptation is counterproductive, because the day that you bring them back, I mean, these girls were making, they were making like 3,000 every day, thereabout. And by the time they pay their bed space, I mean, they have fairly like maybe 1,000 plus to save. And because they saved, although some of them spend money, police, by the time they settle police, settle, they have people they have to settle every day, right? And so that's someone who had no education, then you're going to tell them to go and start selling pepper. They are going to be calculating it. So I studied, because I stayed with them in there. I ran fellowship for them every day, because I noticed quickly that many of them were Christians, and then they love to pray even before they do their whatever. So I leverage on that to become their pastor inside the brothel, and we will pray, and they will raise their prayer point, because they had to sleep with 11 men every day to break even. 11. If you didn't sleep up to 11 men, except you had a customer who paid you above the normal rate, right? And so I quickly learned that prostitution is not as a result of poverty. That for you to be able to sleep with 11 men every day, something like that, your identity. So that was when I was able to link sexual abuse to prostitution, because I never met any girl who was not sexually abused, in the brothel. So when I started that, I mean, TPF would follow me wearing married. Then another guy, Christopher, they would go with me and see what I was doing in the brothel. And then we now decided to say, in fact, remember, we had an event in the brothel, Valentine with Prostitutes. Channels Television came to cover it. And then these girls didn't know it was February 14th to start with. They didn't even know the date. So when we gave them cake and gave them gifts and we talked to them about Valentine, there were 8 of them that left that same day and went back home, right? And so my work was either to take them back home or to find them a reputable place. So that was how Pastor Bimbo came into the picture. She had the facility, so I started working with her, because she paid me a salary then and stuff, but it was pretty much tough. By the time we now say, okay, let's prevent. So we noticed that the rates at which people were replacing the people were taken out was high. So, okay, let us prevent. So we set up a meeting in Ajegunle called Gold in the Slum, or what some people call Uncommon Man Network. So if you see people like Layefa, Miracle, that was the meeting. Samuel, that was the meeting they emerged from, right? To say, you know what, an average young person in Ajegunle is likely going to be, lack direction and end their life. I mean, if you ask the typical young person, then, oh, what's your aspiration? They'll tell you, I just want to rent a room, put a mattress there, buy a TV and have DVD player. Once they had that, the girls were ready to sleep with them, or the girls were ready to marry them and stuff. So that was how we set up Gold in the Slum. I didn't have so much money, then. And so I rented a primary school. And then we started with about, I think, 8 people or 9. And then it grew to about 480 young people every Sunday evening, because the most important day, the most difficult day to gather young people in Nigeria was a Sunday evening, because that's the time they go clubbing. That's the time they do many of the things they do, and that's the time, So I intentionally put that meeting. So we didn't have microphone, we didn't have anything. We just said, let's start. And so that was how we started. And, as we began to grow, pastors started to fight us. They said, oh, we were going to start, they were threatening that we were
Mm.
going to start a church. We weren't collecting offering. What offering could
Oh,
these young
wow.
people even give? No tithe, nothing. We were not praying. We were
Give.
not praying for people to worship. Yes, we were a threat, and so I built a leadership structure because, I mean, sexual activity was too high in Nigeria at that period among young people. So we created what we call sex pure. I mean, I was very good at coining out names. Sex pure centric centers, which was like friendship centers across various streets where young people met and they helped other people. So we had on 66 streets. It was almost like the cell system, but it was very effective. We had new leaders, come in. We began to have admin. That was how the miracle. That was how they grew. Because they became leaders. Miracle was in the, I think, second generation. Like if they became administrators and all. So I stepped down. I was observing them. Grow. They have elected. They appointed their president. The next president. You serve 2 times, and So that was how I put a structure in place. And after a while, I left Ajegunle and I led them to run it. And they had refinery training programs. I mean, they were doing pretty well. But there was a problem. Funding was a challenge, so I had to work, to be able to
Okay.
fund what they were doing. That was how I got into management consulting, and I started training banks so that we can then, some of them, we empower them to work. So they set up fast food in Ajegunle. Fast foods restaurant was not the major restaurant in fast food. Fast food, fast food is sorry, something is feeding back. Fast food is literally you cooked, you prepared what Meshais do, bread and or no spaghetti, and you fry egg on it. Basically that's what they call fast food. Or it was bread and egg and tea. And some of them were making money from it. Other people were doing stuff, and then we had a comedy team, National Crazy Artist of Nigeria. Their leader, Gani, who was also one of the leaders now, is a PhD holder, is a lecturer in LASU now. So that was how we began to grow these young people. And so with that, I had to work and bring money, and just to keep it running. And so we had opportunity for funding. Now, these were young people. Some of them were hooked on masturbation, porn. Some of them had done 3 abortions, 4 abortions, but they had stabilized. We had done a whole lot because every Saturday, Sunday evening, I was teaching them new things. And then, so we got the opportunity, two major opportunity for funding. One was the politician saw what we're doing and he was really moved. And he said he would put money, but then the thing needed to carry his name. Apparently, he was going to contest for governorship of Lagos. I mean, the way I insulted him. I mean, my team was
Mm.
afraid for me because I told him, I said, we've never needed your money. We will never need your money. If we have to crawl to our future, we're willing to crawl there. He felt insulted, but I mean, left me alone. The other option was, I mean, we got an opportunity for funding at the meeting I went for, sharing this project, and then but the condition was that I needed to add condom and distribute condom at the meetings. And so I said, no, I will not distribute condom. These young people can have self-control and stuff. And so we lost the funding. So we decided I didn't know what they call social entrepreneurship, but that was what we were doing because I just said, okay, if we productize and respond to certain problems, then we can make money. So I devised a way of collecting money from the rich to serve the poor. So I will render high
Okay.
level service to the rich. And then, so I'll train the bank, and the banks will pay me maybe 250,000 then. And then I'll use the money to serve the poor, to serve the people. So that was what we're doing. And so I left that place, and then we started responding to every problem we saw. So I noticed that all the girls I worked with were victims of sexual abuse. So how do we solve sexual abuse problem? The only person I saw that was doing something close was Mama Dr. Princess, right? So I mean, in fact, she gave me the first award, White Ribbon Award for where I shared my story, and then I picked that tape, Silent Holocaust, and I felt, oh, we can do a lot more. So we started creating content. For those of you who were on BB in those days, BlackBerry, you would have been receiving some of my stuff. Every day I was writing, every day I would write on sexuality education and stuff. So we responded to that problem. As we responded to the sexuality education problem, By then, I'd moved out of Ajegunle. We set up Center for Sex Education and Family Life. As we responded to that, we saw that everyone we're dealing with, for a child to be molested, then parenting had been faulty. We started responding to parenting, creating content. From that, we discovered that for parenting to have been faulty, maybe the marriages are not working. So we again responded to that. Oh, for marriages to be faulty, maybe we didn't have enough family life professionals. So we created, so it's been responding to every problem that we saw. And unlike the other NGOs, ours is very tough. It's a tough journey because it's not feeding the poor. It's not feeding the hungry. It's behavioral motive. It's like you are rebuilding individuals, you are rebuilding lives. And it takes time before you can measure, right? So it wasn't fascinating to go to a meeting and say, come and fund what we're doing. Because it's not, oh, we have 1,000 people who need to pay school fees. In fact, some of the young people couldn't pay school fees. I had to pay some of their school fees. I had to get sponsors for them to pay their school fees. I got people, my friends, brought my friends in and stuff. So that was how we scaled. So we responded. I mean, it literally took my life because that was all we started doing. That was, if we made money, we didn't think of, oh, let's pay ourselves. Let us buy a car for ourselves. All we talked about is these young people. Before the money comes, you have enough people, to so we were just disbursing the money and assisting and assisting and assisting, right? Some of them have now grown. They're now working. They're able to put something back into their Ajegunle bits of the project. And then we have a lot more products right now. And so when the bad thing is that because we started without even being able to pay anybody any salary. I mean, the salary of the initial workers in the office was at the end of every month, we bought peppered chicken, and then we've got Ijebu Gari from my mom. And so everybody will joyfully sit down and then drink Ijebu Gari and peppered chicken. And we were excited to, that was our salary. So until we could retain a few people and pay them salaries. And so it's been an interesting journey. When I look back, I've almost forgotten the journey, but it was quite selfless because for me, let's solve the problem, let's help people. I wasn't thinking about buying. When people bought land, I didn't buy land. I didn't know what it means to buy a house, because let's just solve the problem. Of course, that's an extreme that is no good, but so that's it.
Okay, wow. You said something that gave me a bit of flashback. I can remember when I was serving in Delta State. It was myself and another guy that's were in that village. Prior to that year, each time they send coppers to that village, they don't stay, they leave. But when they posted me to that village, I decided to stay. And there was a particular secondary school for girls, that was taking them physics and mathematics. So I found out that there were some things that they didn't have. And I learned that there is this rich man, in the village, and I approached him. And amazingly, PF, I am doing something for your village. The guy said he will give us the money for the project if I slept with him. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
I just told him, I said, to hell with your money. We will do this thing without you. And I walked away.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. You're trying to do something for people and you're trying to take advantage of the person that wants to do good.
Ayo,
It's
let me tell you a story. About 4 years ago, there's a major senator in Nigeria. He's still in the Senate. I think he's going to contest for governor of Ogun State after this election. He ran the largest senatorial district in Lagos. And then we wanted to do a project to say child sexual abuse is prominent in your senatorial district. Let us help, even if you want to use it and say part of what you did to win campaign and win election. I mean, you do it. And this guy loved the whole idea. Loved the whole idea. I mean, we went for the meeting. I even gave him copies of my book. And then the lady that introduced me to him, this guy put a condition that unless the lady slept with him, he wouldn't do the project. And so that was how we walked out of the table. So I said that an entire generation in your constituency, children are going to become unfortunate because you couldn't sleep with a lady that came to introduce me to you. And so I understand exactly what you're saying, and that's some of the things we've had to face. The sad part is that people don't do the work, get the funding because they know how to put a
Mhm.
letter and how to position and all. The one who genuinely do the work hardly get anything. But we have to do what we have to do.
But I think we're going to start changing the narrative. We will also begin to get the funding because we need to get this funding to do
Yeah.
the work. There's so much to do, and I also recollected something. You mentioned when you were working with the people, the we don't call them prostitutes, we call them commercial sex workers. Yes, that's what they are called. There was a particular lady I met on the flight from Kenya to Nigeria, and she was actually deported from Dubai. She went there from Benin, and along the lines, things didn't really work out, and she had to come back to Nigeria. And it's so amazing when she was deported. I know that usually they come, they are brought back to Nigeria with maybe an official or something that would, bring them home. But in her own case, she was just given the certificate of deportation. She had no passport again and everything. And she sat right beside me. And as I sat down, I went with my friend, and she was, a bit on the plummier side. I said, okay, it's better she sits on the outer aisle and I sit in the middle. And as I sat down, I saw her, sighing, and it was quite loud. And I just looked at her. I said, what's the problem? She said she's not fine. Then I asked her again, what's the challenge? And she said, oh, there's no problem. And I said, no, I'm not going to take that from you. I'm going to take the first thing you said. You said you're not fine. What exactly is the matter? Then she told me her story. So and I said, okay, no problem. She happens to be a commercial sex worker, brought back to Nigeria and all. I said, okay, we'll see what we can do. In my head, I was just like, Lord, what am I going to do with this woman? And she came to Nigeria. We're trying to reach out to, the people that have NGOs that deal with sort, but unfortunately we couldn't. So I called my church. The pastor said I should bring her. We brought her to church, and amazingly, we called her because she could still remember her husband's number. She was married. We didn't know she was married with two children. So she left Nigeria, to do that. And by the time we spoke with her, we found out that she was married. We called the husband. The husband was ready to take her back, which was very, very strange. To cut the long story short, we're able to link her back, to her husband. She was set in business. At the moment, she now runs her own hairdressing salon, and she has people working with her, still with her husband. She's even gotten another child. So it's amazing. The work is much. But like you said, at the moment, not so people have the heart to do it. And even those that put up the front that they have the heart to do it are not really doing it, with the whole of their heart. It's more of what they can get and not really reaching out to the people. But we still know that there are quite a number of few people like what you're doing, that are still doing this work and are doing it wholeheartedly. And this brings me to another question. What has been the most inspiring part of this your journey? What keeps you going? What fuels you? What makes you wake up, say, you know what, we still have to do this against all odds?
My
Um,
mom,
my mom,
my mom said something to
my
me
mom said
early in the
something to me.
days.
Earlier Uh,
She said that people will say that Nigeria is not worth dying for. He said, so now
Mm,
that you know that Nigeria is not worth dying for, do what you have to do without expecting any thank you.
mm,
So that set me in a space where I did everything I did, willing to walk away without expecting anything.
mm,
I believed absolutely that God will take care and God will reward me. So I literally understood that principle. So I didn't work with the people because I wanted them to mention my name or refer to me. I mean, I've always shared this story. I think I've shared it with some of my mentees how a guy had a serious marital issue and he said he was broke, he didn't have money. And how I waived the fees I would normally charge and worked on himself and his wife, worked on them, helped them come back together, and they healed, they came back together. And then they just said thank you and they left. And following week, I was invited to a church that my friend invited me, was doing Thanksgiving or something. I went to the church and I saw this couple testifying in the church to how the word of the pastor from the pulpit, that they talk about marital restoration and how it was the word of the pastor that restored their marriage, they're back together. And as a show of appreciation, they were donating a car to the pastor. It broke me where I sat, my heart sank. I thought about my family, that I didn't track this guy. You know what the comfort I deprived my family of to be able to do some of the things I do, And so, but you see, much more than that, I've also met people who would say to me, Praises, you are the reason I'm alive. If I had not met you, if you didn't do I don't remember some of them, and I'm like, someone said I was on the verge of committing suicide. You gave me food, I didn't remember the person. I didn't remember we had that conversation, So there's something we always say in this star that our advertisements are the testimonies of transformed lives. Right. And so for me, the most inspiring thing, I'm coming to Nigeria because my book is going to be released. I'm coming next month. And then the person doing my book review at the book unveiling is going to be Gani. And Gani was in that meeting in Ajegunle. Right. He's now a PhD holder, one of the youngest PhD holders, lecturing in LASU. I look at that boy. There's another boy who that one couldn't read when he was in gold in the slum, but he's finished his master's. I see some of these people across the world, some of my mentees, and I am excited. I see people maybe could have died of HIV, say to me, Praise, it was what you taught me, it were the things you did. People say a whole lot to say, I couldn't pay you, but you didn't throw me away. You didn't walk away because of the fact that I couldn't pay. In fact, what we did way back was we left every Thursday open in our office to not to charge anybody that came in on the Thursday, right? To say it will be our CSR day. So it's what we do. And so when I see transform, when I see people who were depressed, people who were messed up in their marriages, and now they can see, they can stand on their feet, I think it's more of, I get a lot of fulfillment, and these days, like someone died in the educational sector in Nigeria during the week, and it got me thinking to say, so what is the essence of all this kidding ourselves, stressing ourselves to make money when you are literally going to die and nobody's going to remember that you came if you didn't make enough impact? That, oh, I want to buy 10 houses, I want to be comfortable. When none of us is coming out of life alive, it got me thinking a whole lot to say there's a lot more that we can do for humanity. So transformed lives, and it's tough. Transformed lives is a long-term project. You can't work with them now and say, oh, this person is transformed. I can look at you, Ayo, for example, and look at the time you came to class and say, oh, I've testified. Ayo is now, da, 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 da. But look at the journey post-class. Look at how long it took, right? And so how many people, and that's why I understand our work as African born professionals is deeper, because I look at what people do. Here you see people in therapy for 7 years, and they don't look close to healing. They don't look close to recovery. But they have paid for because therapy is not free. They have paid for every session for 7 years of their life, and we make it happen in less than 13 weeks sometimes, right? And people are back together, people are doing stuff. It's almost miraculous. They don't believe that it can happen, but we've done this thing. So when I see people now come back together, or even if they don't come back together, I see them alive, wholesome, and living their lives. I'm excited, So it's the transformed life that inspired me. I was sharing with someone how, I mean, when I want to poke fun at Ayo, I'll tell her, Ayo, remember that your 180,000 job, and how Ayo was almost going to kill herself over 180,000 job that was not forthcoming. And I said to her, forget about that job, go and, and how the day Mr. Lawrence cooked from Lekki, you remember that day, and brought the food to Ojodu to say, PF, I'm coming to, those are inspiring moments for me. When I see some of the meetings, secret meetings we've done. We used to do one secret meeting, a few people, that will teach them stuff that they will never hear anywhere, and I see who they are right now, what they're doing. That inspires me because at the end of the day, we can't count numbers as success stories to say, oh, we have spoken to 1 million people. Where are they? Say, oh, we have won 6 million souls in Nigeria. If we have 6 million souls in Nigeria, Nigeria cannot be what it is, right? So
Mhm.
I have learned that deep work to transform one life might take
Mhm.
10 years, but you have to keep doing it. You have to be there. And so those are the things that inspire me. That's why I'm not cut out for any microwave, miraculous kind of thing that, oh, yeah, microwave now. Can we do it in 10 seconds? No. If it's behavioral, you have to behave yourself out of it. It takes a whole long process. So those are the things that really, really inspire me, and I'm grateful to God for that we actually have the methodology and the model that can help people. So when I sit with government officials and I'm telling them how long it's going to take, and they're saying, no, 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 can we do something that works in a day? I know it's event they want, and I'm not cut out for events because events, we talk to the people, they eat, you motivate them. By the time they go back, they are back to square one. And I've seen that happen over and over again. So transform lives is really what inspires.
Thank you so much, PF. And you just said something key now, that's just speaking with someone or having a conversation with someone in just 10, 15 minutes is just an event. It's deeper, it's deeper, it's deeper than that. And I think that's why we need more funds to be able to do this work. I know that we also have someone, running the journey to wholeness. And from time to time, when we go for events, and maybe even in the church setting, we go for events and people are called out for impartation. We've taken it upon ourselves to actually take in more people on the journey. So it's beyond the let's just pray for this person and go, because it's deeper than that. That has its place, but there is a need to do the work of the mind, the work of changing people's mindset, their belief system, and things like that. So it's very, very important that the people that are willing to do the work are well funded so that we can have more people who can't even afford. Because some people can't really afford this thing. They can't. And like you said, if you're doing pro bono, some people are paying for it. Your
Mhm.
wife is paying for it, your children are paying for it, because the time you're spending with these people, you can even spend it with your children, or even you yourself, you're paying for it, because you can have a meeting with yourself in your bed and be sleeping and snoring. So someone is paying for it. And if indeed someone is paying for it, we need more support in this area to be able to do this work and get even more counselors, more coaches, more therapists to do this work. And you know what, PF? I've even come to realize that some of our coaches, therapists, and even counselors, their first job is actually from these pro bonos, as it were. Some find it difficult to go out and get clients for themselves. But through these organized processes, they are able to get their first clients and see and begin to even try what they can see, they can do. And even right before their eyes, seeing lives transformed, and they also are fulfilled in the process. So yes, it's a lot of work. And I believe that in the near future, we'll begin to see the results of all that is being put in place. There's this question here that I have for you. What has been the mistakes that you have, you've encountered, and you don't want other people to? You just want people to learn from. So what are the things? I know you've mentioned a little bit, not
Um,
taking care of yourself as you should, but I believe there is more. What are other things that you have done, how you've gotten your fingers burnt, and you want those of us coming, to be mindful of?
my mentor says something. um, Dr. Miles. Whenever you meet Dr. Miles, and you introduce yourself, what you do, the first question he will ask you is, what business? What is your business? And in case you don't understand, he will ask you, what do you do that is bringing you money? And I one day when I got closer, I said, Papa, why do you? He said, because if you have not settled how you will make money, he says you may be frustrated or you begin to steal,
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
right? And so I never forgot that. For me, one of the core mistakes, if I have to redo the work again, the first place I will go to is the place of business. I won't even enter church to start with. I will go into, because church can condition you to do it for free. Freely
Mm.
agree. I could be feeling guilty. I used to feel very guilty if I couldn't help someone, if they couldn't pay, you know. And so I will go into the business places because I realized that if you play cash flow 101, and I think it's Gospel is here. Gospel will always say to us, you are not qualified for this thing that you are. And I love, because if there's anybody who drove that lesson home to qualifying yourself for something, it's Gospel. Right? Gospel will measure the square meter and measure what you are generating and say, maybe you're not qualified for this space you are occupying, and it did help me. So for me, I would go into the business place. I would make a lot of money. Then I would set up a foundation. In fact, I think my calling ultimately will be to fund change projects. I want to do what Bill Gates is doing, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm literally changing from the not-for-profit person to a business-oriented person. So
Mm.
I would make a lot of money, because with that you can do a whole lot. I mean, the same person who says go and distribute condom is because he has money now. That's why he can be telling me that. If I have
Mm.
money, money gives you
Mm.
choices. And
Yeah.
so I will do that, and I will be a bit more balanced. Because I mean, to be training banks way back and to be earning 250, 300,000 per day, there's a lot you could have done. You could have bought more properties and all, but I didn't see it as that. I mean, I just saw it as, let's just do the work. And so that's another mistake. And you don't want your family to suffer, some of the things that,
Yeah.
so those were errors that I didn't learn because I was passionate about the work. And but now,
Mm.
I mean, if I make money, it's my family that comes first now.
Yeah.
So I have the 10% I can dedicate to courses and whatever. So nobody, I mean, because part of the thing is, even when I made money with all the things I had to do, if they raised, come and donate something somewhere, I was the first to stand out. I just thought that I thought I was the savior of the entire world and I wanted to save the world, but I didn't know that I couldn't save the world. So I learned budgeting, over a period of time, which has helped me a lot now, So that was a fundamental error. Then the other thing was that I didn't quite profile, some of my clients properly. So it was very easy for you to be cheated on. Like the guy that went to donate car, apparently he had money to pay, but then
Mm.
he was
It is
pretending as
still
if he didn't
value.
have money to pay. And so, in fact, some people just say, go to Praise for where he will do it, Sometimes you need to be tough and you need to state your processes early. I remember I
Absolutely.
had to go and speak for one church in a camp meeting in Ikorodu, some interior in Ikorodu.
Mm.
And then those days, people ask me, oh, what do you charge? I'll say, whatever God lays on your heart. Now, I felt it
Mm.
was God that gave me that thing to say, but it wasn't God. The person I trained, I learned consulting under. That was what he used to say. And so all of us are trained under
Mm.
him. That's what we started to say. Now, but he had the wife that had the thriving business, a major business,
Yeah.
that even he could afford to do it for free. So I was saying
Mm.
that. So I went to that place in Ekorodu and I drove my car. Then when I finished, the cuckoo gave me, God bless you, with 30,000 naira. Now, by the time I got back home, my car was a mess. I paid 180,000 to fix that car. I didn't have it. I had to ask TPF to give me a loan that I will pay back, right? And so that was avoidable. I could have asked them, come and pick me at least. If I won't make profit, let me also not make a loss, right? So I didn't
Yeah.
understand the dynamics of going to speak. It was later that someone broke it down for me to say, praise. Every time you go and speak for people, one, you assume that your car will go to the mechanic. How much will the mechanic to service your car after coming back? Two, you assume that you go to your doctor because they have to treat you and put your body back in shape. How much will that be? You assume that you go to the spa. How much will that be? You assume that you go to a lounge to relax. How much will that be? By the time I calculated it, I realized that I was literally killing myself to solve other people's. And what I learned is that if you drop dead, people are quick to move on, right? They'll find the next host, and then so I didn't set up my structure well early enough. Of course, that mistakes, I wouldn't repeat that. So now I learned pay yourself first, before every other person, So those were fundamental mistakes. Of course, I learned systems intelligence early enough. And sometimes I can leave a whole lot of things hanging. I could leave a lot of things hanging without clarity, because, and I could be a slave driver in quotes, because that's how I drive myself. And you don't even have time for
Mm.
rest and all those kind of thing, and so I'm slowing down on that. I've slowed down on that a lot, even though I'm still a hard worker. But I find, when I tell people that I see a movie at least every day, a 2-hour movie at least every day, they don't believe. When Lincoln Lawyer came out, and I put it on social media. Once I started it, I finished the 10 episodes till I didn't even leave where I sat. So you have time for that. I have time. I try to create time, right now, to do a whole lot of things. So some of my mentees copy the bad behavior, but now I'm trying to adjust it in them and say, you know what, you need to prioritize, go away. Some of the time I just go away, just go out of town, go enjoy yourself and then come back. Don't think about work. There will always be work to do. So those were balance I didn't put in place early enough. And also, I didn't learn the rule of engagement in Nigeria, because starting my life was right and wrong, right and wrong, right and wrong, right and wrong. FFL, so you're also an addict. I mean, in fact, Lincoln Lawyer is so bad that by the time they finish season 3, I had gone to read the novel now to know what will likely
Oh,
happen
wow.
in season 4, but I will not tell you guys. Right? Because I was too consumed with it, so those were the basic things I would say that mistakes I made that were a bit fundamental.
Mm.
I think it's proper for people to understand rules of engagement in Nigeria, because so now if they say distribute condom, I won't say distribute condom, but I'll find a way to collect the condom and still collect the money and do the job and not distribute any condom. Or if I don't feel I can give the condom to married people, I can. There are ways around some of these things
Absolutely.
that I know.
Absolutely.
But for me, then,
Absolutely.
either you follow my way or there's no highway. So I
Mm.
won't allow you to take me to
Mm.
hellfire, and all those kind of things. So I know rules of engagement better. And that's why I teach it firsthand to the people I am leading, to say, what, don't make these errors. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And you know what? Working with you has actually opened my eyes to a lot of things as well. I can also be a slave driver working odd hours, but I'm also learning, to take good care of myself, because it's just this body that we have and we can only live once. So we
Yes.
need to slow down, take some rest. And that was what brought me to Abeokuta and Ota. I decided to leave Lagos. I just have the weekend to myself. Yeah, thank you so much. I think I have one last question. I'll wrap two questions in one. And the first one is, what is the current situation of things, and how can people engage? How can people be a part of this movement of changing lives?
Okay. Someone is asking, have I thought of releasing a documentary or movie around the Ajegunle experience? Yeah,
Mm,
yes, we've talked about it.
yeah,
We
you
actually
should.
we're going to commission the
Should.
project. We're going to commission the project last year, but then when they gave me the budget, I was like, this budget we can deploy it to help more people. Instead of shooting this movie. I mean, that's my. My team has really had to put some foot down on certain things for me to say, PF, we will do what we need to do. Forget it. So
Mm,
yeah, but it's
mm,
something we'll do. I think we're going to shoot a part of it when I come to Nigeria. Laifa is working on something. We had an initial documentary of Gold in the Slum, but we will do a proper movie. I think the script is actually ready. The script is ready. It's just for them to now shoot. Okay. So your question was what again, Ayo?
I was saying that how can we
Okay, how can we be a part of it?
engage more people?
So,
Yeah.
so we have people don't know that, for example, Harvard University is a not-for-profit, right? I mean, many people don't believe that. And so they're always thinking if it's not for profit, everybody should be able to afford it. It's not like that, right? Harvard is a not for profit. Yet their school fee is very high. IFED, Institute of Family and General Development, is a not for profit. And many people don't know. It's a not for profit, and we've tried to keep it so. You have Center for Sex Education and Family Life runs monthly family meeting. I mean, we have to appreciate Ebon Lomo. Please, if you see Ebon, help me thank her. Help me so into her life, if you can. Ebon has done a whole lot, moderating the meetings. And then when we saw the need to take care of people who have left marriages, people who have lost spouses, because we felt nobody was taking care of them, we created the Sunshine Hub, and Ebon also was the person we pushed in there to say, I mean, Sunshine Hub lives a life on their own right now. They are doing very
Of
well.
its own.
But most of the time, we need funding for them. There are courses they need to take. I mean, some of them can't afford it because they are still going through divorce and all. So you can donate to Family Center. I think the website is www.family Family Center,
Center quality.
center.org, center.org.ng. Yeah, .ng. Yeah, so you find a donation button, and there's also one thing we do, which is preventing child sexual abuse. We've done in Nigeria, Kenya, Cameroon, South Africa, Canada, and it costs like 2,500 to, I mean, educate a child, and prevent child sexual abuse. So, I mean, it's something you might want to do. You can sponsor 10, 100 children, 1,000 children. Or if you're a corporate organization, there's a lot we need help with. I mean, like our annual conference, for example, if it's something that falls within the jurisdiction of your corporate social responsibilities, please put us first, and we won't disappoint you, right? Like next year now, we're going to Edo State, and that's the only gathering that brings family life professionals together across Nigeria. So it's something you can provide support for, but we're really passionate about the Sunshine Hub right now. It's one of the core things, and the family meeting and the children, so if it's something you can support, we'll be grateful. And you might want to also sponsor people for the course if you know a professional, a pastor that needs to boost because if those people get more educated, then they can do a whole lot more for the people because they have direct control of the people, So, but I think everyone has got to get involved in transforming human lives. If you can't set up something, support an organization that is doing something that resonates with what you believe. I mean, we brought like 3 different organizations this month. Please, let's all support. Nothing is too small. Your 2,000, your 10,000, can do a whole lot. Your 20,000 can do a whole lot. You can be in the boardroom. You can put in a word for the organization and say, hey, you have a pet project you're supporting. I have to especially appreciate FFL from day one. FFL will put up our names in our children's school. I mean, all the schools our children attended, I have been there. I have done trainings for them. She will put us first. So, I mean, we need more people like that, more evangelists like that. And she runs a not-for-profit anyways, but she still supports a lot of, I mean, majorly everything we do. In fact, I don't know if FFL knows this. The name I used to save her name on my phone was Best Client for so many years. Best Client was what I put her because, yeah, she was that client that from the first time I worked with her, she just carried everywhere, PF, and all. And so you can provide support. I mean, if there's any weakness I have, I don't know how to beg people for money. I don't know how to, I'm not likely, even if I'm dying, to say, oh, come and help us, come and give us money, but that's a weakness I've overcome now. because people assume
Yes.
that we don't have needs. We have a lot of needs. Even House of Saviors, we do a whole lot. I mean, Ayo knows what the account looks like right now. And when the accountant gave us the figures, we're like, what? Like, what have we been doing, But it's what we owe humanity. And so a lot of people don't know
Mm,
what goes on behind the scene. And because I always tell people that this work we do is the most difficult to do because we are raising the consciousness. That's why it's very easy.
mm,
I mean, it's difficult for us to manipulate you with what you have been taught. But if I'd come here to do Bible study and prayer and do miracle and pray for you and bless you every day, it's very easy to tap into your pocket. And so let's not take it for granted. But I believe all of us, see, we can look at the problems in Nigeria and feel, oh, the more we solve the problem, the more others are coming up. So you solve one problem, 1 million will come up. We cannot, because of that, now stop. We have to keep doing. There are people around your neighborhood. If you can give them a bag of rice, it would save them. We do a lot of charity. There's an adopted community in Nigeria for us. When we give them rice and all those things, you see the prayers, if you see it. So there are people
mm,
who need what you have. I mean, let's make our time as saviors to save them. Buy food for someone. If you go eat in a restaurant, don't blow 200K by yourself without thinking
mm.
of the person who
Okay.
10,000. As you are blowing 200K, make your budget 210K. So eat your
Mm,
200K, go and give 10K to someone who is in Mama Put, who is just standing by. It's not, if that's the only meal he could have, he can't even afford it. Let's do all we have to do. And I must appreciate TPF. I don't know if she's on the call. Thank you very much, because we bear a whole lot of burdens together, and she takes a whole lot, from behind the scenes.
mm.
I must say thank you very much for all the support from day one, and every of my team members, Tolani, Omotola, Kunle, Mary Jane, everyone, Ayo, all our zonal coordinators, Bokun, thank you guys. These guys work tirelessly for free, right? But I know that someday we'll be able to afford and pay all of them, and God is able to also pay us back. So thank you, everyone. So that's been the journey. We want to say thank you.
Thank you so much, PF. And I want to join you again in saying thank you to TPF. Because, like I mentioned, when you're doing anything, most of the time the family bears the brunt. And I know, how it has been, over the years. So TPF, we celebrate you. Thank you so much for all you do. We thank you also, Imole. We thank you, David, for allowing Daddy do all he has to do. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And on this note, I sign out and I hand over to Oluwashio. God bless.
Thank you so much.